Hello and welcome to today's story behind the song. Today's song is Night Song. It's also one of my favorite songs from the album, purely because of the sophistication of the writing behind it. When I put Skin together, the template in my head was a UK version of Montrose, which is an American band that had Sammy Hagar as the singer. One of my favorite bands, not only then, but even now, and their debut album to me is one of the greatest albums ever made. And so that was the template behind it. I remember the first time I saw Neville sing in a band called Cougar. I knew that I wanted to be in a band with him because I thought he was one of the best singers in the world, and now I still believe that to this day. I initially approached him to be the singer of Jagged Edge, but he wouldn't leave Cougar. Then he asked me to join Cougar, and for a very brief period of time I was involved in that band. But I don't really have the personality to be in someone else's band, so that didn't work. And then when both Jagged Edge and Cougar fell apart, we gave it another try, and that's how Skin came together. But in my head, the template was very much Montrose, Led Zeppelin, heavy grooves, and the riff to Night Song, which was originally called something else. I think it was called Drop of the Hard Stuff, has that kind of riff. And I would come up with lots of those kind of riffs. So it was a riff that was knocking around for a very long time. But then I started to work with other songwriters. And when I went over to Los Angeles, I worked with an incredibly talented songwriter called Jeff Paris. And we come up with some songs. And Todd Meager, who also co-wrote Witch of the Tears, was also involved, but more on the lyrical side of it. So one of the ideas that I played Jeff was that riff, and within those writing sessions this whole sort of song materialized. I'd come up with this other riff which goes, and I just thought that was kind of like an introduction riff. But Jeff's contribution to this song was very much what happened in the bridge. And he took that one riff and he played it in multiple keys and came up pretty much with the melody that's all over it. And then he modulated it up. And that's all he's doing. He brought that into the song, and then I came up with the chorus. So that was how it kind of worked. I had the riff. Todd sort of did a lot of the lyrics. Jeff sort of did the bridge and other little bits and pieces, and I came up with the chorus to it. So it's an example of how multiple influences can come in to make a finished song. The subject matter of the song really just sort of is about my total obsession and adoration of women, really, something that has been with me my whole life, unlikely to leave. And as I sort of said before, when I was writing songs, it was very much about how can I get as many women to come to our concerts as possible. So that was kind of like a lot behind the songwriting, the lyric writing, and the overall concept of the band. I didn't really have a desire to have, a load of sort of headbang, no men, just like all men in the audience. I very much wanted all women in the audience. And so that's how the song came about. But the little thing that I want to add on to this little segment is when we were recording the album and we came to the subject of backing vocals. It was incredible how, you know, Keith was a master of vocals and harmonies and stuff like that. And he said, oh, we're going to get Robert Mason to do all the backing vocals. And initially I was a little bit surprised because the guys in Skin were pretty good singers. But then when Robert came in and I saw him at work, you know, he was the singer of Lynch Mob, and now I believe he's the singer of Warrant. Fantastic singer. But what he would do, he would come in and he would just nail these backing vocals one after the other, you know, and he was singing for maybe, 4 to 5 hours solid, and everything was in tune and everything was in time, and they all began and ended at the same time, and it taught me what a skill and discipline backing vocals are. You know, when you listen to like the Motley Crue album, Dr. Feelgood, you've got Bryan Adams on there doing the backing vocals. You know, so Keith's philosophy to making records was you just get the best possible people to do the work. I remember that he had James Kotak, who was the drummer from Kingdom Come and the Scorpions, a fantastic drummer. And he was waiting to do the drums on the album if, for whatever reason, the drum with Skin wasn't going to be able to cut it. And I'd previously worked with Keith on the Bruce Dickinson album, and we were working on a song, and he said, I want you to play this part. And he handed me a piece of music, and it was incredibly complicated. I said, Keith, I'm going to need a bit of time to learn this. He goes, I know, that's why I've given you this paper, and you know, you've got until tomorrow to do it, and if you can't do it, then I'm going to get George Lynch to do it. You know, so it's a very brutal world, the world of session musicians, and it's a world that I existed in for a little while, so I know how tough it is. You know, so subsequently when I've worked with many singers over the years, and a lot of singers are fantastic at singing lead vocals, but when you get them to do harmonies and to just do the same line over and over again, they find it very, very tough, you know, and it's a discipline that really needs to be worked on, because if you think about all of those Bon Jovi albums, Aerosmith albums, Kiss albums, you know, the backing vocals are a massive part of what makes those records sound so sonically good. So my advice to singers is don't only focus on your lead vocals. Think about the discipline that goes on to the rest of the song. So that's my little story for the day. You know, it's more of a tip for musicians in the studio, and just sort of bearing in mind that a record lasts forever, you know, so don't be afraid to bring in other people to do things that need to be done. You know, I've played on numerous albums, and the guitar players don't even know that I've actually done the guitars on them, and I'm not going to say anything because you don't want to destroy their world. You know, you get called in and you do stuff because whatever reason the band members can't do it as good as it needs to be done, but that doesn't mean that they can't sell it on tour. It just means that in the studio you've got to create something that is perfect and timeless and lasts forever. And if you need to bring in someone to do backing vocals, or you need someone to do keyboards or a guitar solo, it doesn't matter. I could tell you endless stories of band members who don't play on their records, and that's okay, you know, because it doesn't necessarily have to be the band that tours to be the band that makes the record. So that's my little tip or insight, if that helps. And until the next time, take care.